G'day. Today we're going to be looking at conditionals and loops in chapter 6. Conditional says if something is true, do this, otherwise do that. For example, if you do your homework, you can have ice cream. If you don't do your homework, you don't get to have ice cream. A loop says as long as something is true, keep doing this. If we look at the if statement, it's very simple. It's used to run code only if the condition is true. Like this very broad template, if condition is true, like if 3 equals 3, it's going to run the code in the if statement. If else, an if statement will execute the body only if the condition is true. If you want something else to happen when the condition is false, you need to use an if else statement. So if condition is true, that's going to run code. So let's say the condition is 3 equal to 4. It's going to jump to the else statement because the condition isn't true, and then run the code in the else block. Chaining if else statements, often we need to check sequence of conditions to do something when one of them is true. To go to chain of if else statement starts with a normal if statement, and after the closing goes its body into the keywords if else, followed by another condition and another body. You can keep doing this until you run out of conditions. There's no conditionals and loops limit to the number of conditions. The final else section will run if none of the conditions are true. So if we look at that, if condition 1 is true, it's going to run the code in that code block. If else condition 2 is true, it's going to run code block number 2, and so on and so forth. If none of these conditions are true, it's going to run the code in the else block. Okay, loops. Loops allow you to run this piece of code multiple times depending on whether a condition remains true. A while loop. While loop repeatedly executes its body until a particular condition stops being true. So in this case, we're counting sheep. We've got a variable sheep counted. While sheep counted is less than 10, it's going to console I have counted sheep counted, and that's the counter. After consoling and logging it, sheep counter is going to increment by 1. So it's going to run this until it reaches 10, and then the block of code is no longer going to be true, and it's no longer going to be running. For loops. For loops make it easy to write loops that create a variable loop until a condition is true. You can update the variable at the end of the term of the loop. In setting up a for loop, you create a variable, specify a condition, and say how the variable should change after each cycle, all before you reach the body of the loop. So for example, create a variable, in this case sheep counted equals 0. Your condition is sheep counted less than 10, and then every time it runs the block of code, sheep counted is going to be incremented by 1. So this is also going to run 10 times. Okay, if we look at some code, wait a second, let me just check something. Chapter 6. For loops. Okay, yeah. So if we look at some code, what so in this for loop, we're gonna be multiplying the variable by 3 and consoling it every time. So it's going to be multiplied. It's starting with 3 and it's going to be multiplied with 3 every time we run it. So if you look at that in the code, in the console, so there it is now. Let's just update it, and it's gonna do this 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and the condition is while it's less than 10,000. So the next, our last answer was 6,500. If you times that by 3, it's obviously going to be 18,000 something. So the condition will no longer be true. Okay, so that is chapter 6.